Invasion renewed. As the leaders of the Inner Sphere were learning how to defeat the invaders, the clans convened a grand Kurultai to elect a new leader. In the midst of a storm of arguments, accusations, and counter-accusations, each clan sought to have one of their own elected to the rank of Il Khan. Finally, the vote was taken, and Ulrich Kerensky, Khan of the Wolves, became the Khan of Khans, the supreme leader of the clans. Soon afterward, the Il Khan confirmed the objectives of the next invasion wave. Khan Kincaid Fury of the Smoke Jaguars, still smarting from his clan's embarrassing defeat at Walcott, demanded the Jaguars be allowed to avenge themselves on the Draconis Combine. Il Khan Kerensky quickly agreed with his choice of targets. If the Jaguars succeeded, much of the resistance faced by the Jaguars and the Ghost Bears would evaporate. For this reason, the Il Khan approved Operation Dragon Slayer, the invasion of Luthien. The first clan jump ships of the resumed invasion reached the Inner Sphere in November 3051. Tamar, Laurent, and Severin felt the bite of the returning Wolf clan. The Jade Falcons struck at Orkney and Lagrave, and the Ghost Bears attacked Thessalonica and Kempton. Meanwhile, the Smoke Jaguars remained silent. No one in the Draconis Combine seemed to know whether Jaguars would resume their attacks. The Khanre dispatched ISF officers and hired operatives into the clan occupation zones. Shin Yodama contacted the few remaining Yakuza cells that remained active on Jaguar or Novacat-held worlds. All received the same orders: learn the objective of the next clan invasion. Unfortunately, none of these agents could discover the world slated for the clan's attentions, and many were never heard from again. Then, late in November, a sympathetic source in Comstar informed Theodore Kurita that the clans planned to renew their invasion of the Combine by striking at Luthien. The Khanre immediately called an emergency meeting of the regimental commanders stationed on Luthien. Theodore's announcement that the clans had slated Luthien for invasion evoked a stunned silence for the commanders of the Genyosha, 1st Sword of Light, 2nd Legion of Vega, and the Otomo. Nothing can stop the clans once they have determined where they will strike, the Khanre told his military leaders. We lack the naval vessels to challenge the invasion fleet before it arrives in system. Our only hope is to find the best way to drive the invaders off Luthien once they arrive. Taisa Oda Hideyoshi of the Otomo and Taisa Shigeru Yoshida of the 1st Sword of Light immediately pledged their regiments to the defense of the Combine's capital. Yoshida suggested that the Khanre recall the Ryuken from their border posts to aid in the operation. Theodore considered the proposal for a moment and then rejected the idea. The Ryuken were more valuable to the war effort right where they were, on the border between clan-occupied space and the Combine. On Luthien, the Ryuken units would be able to engage only the forces that the Jaguars committed to the invasion. Theodore preferred to have the Ryuken remain along the border where their fast, deep penetration raids could force the Jaguars to garrison their captured worlds with large numbers of troops. If we lose Luthien, we lose one world out of hundreds, the Khanre told his commanders. Yes, it would be a great dishonor for our capital to fall to the invaders, but we cannot allow ourselves to become so concerned with the preservation of our honor that we lose the entire realm. We cannot strip regiments away from areas of potential clan threat to protect one world, even if it means losing Luthien. If we lose the capital, we will avenge our honor by defeating the clans on other worlds. We cannot fight this war for pride or honor, or even for planets. We must fight this war for our survival, and the survival of our way of life. If the clans succeed in conquering the Draconis Combine as they have the Free Razelhag Republic, we, and everything we have ever known and cherished, would be destroyed. We would cease to be the Draconis Combine. We would no longer be the inheritors of the samurai tradition, and that, my friends, would be the cruelest dishonor of them all. In that moment, the battle was decided. No units would be called in from other worlds. The Genyosha, the Otomo, the 1st Sword of Light, and the 2nd Legion of Vega would defend Luthien, along with whatever militia regiments could be mustered and equipped before the invaders arrived. Then the Khanre laid out an even bolder plan for confronting the invaders. Codenamed Case Tako or Octopus, The strategy called for 9 of the 10 Combine units stationed along the Davian front to shift to the clan front. The supply and logistics elements supporting those units would then be sent with them. Theodore's revelation of this bold plan touched off an angry debate. "It leaves the Combine open to its ancient enemy, the Federated Sons," Hideyoshi argued. "Once the Fox learns that the border between his nation and ours has been stripped of defenders, Davian will launch his next offensive, not against the clans, but against us." Theodore tried to convince Hideyoshi that the Federated Commonwealth would be foolish to attack the Combine while the clans were gobbling up large portions of Steiner space. The Otomo leader, however, would not relent. He argued that history proved the destruction of the Combine and House Kirito were Hansa Davian's best and only interests. With the Combine gone, nothing would stand between Davian and the throne of the Star League. Then Hideyoshi made an almost fatal error. He accused the Kanrei of planning to marry his daughter Omi to Prince Victor Davian. Shin Yodama recorded the events that followed in his journal. "I know the official record says the Kanrei remained impassive in the face of Hideyoshi-san's accusations. Indeed, to the casual observer, his reaction was no more than one might expect had the Taisa suggested Theodore-san had made a foolish move in shogi. But I, who have been with the Kanrei for no little time, noticed the tightening around his eyes and the brief spasm in his hands, as though he were about to draw his sidearm and shoot Hideyoshi through the head. When he spoke, it was with the faintest hiss of contempt. 'I see the court gossips have your ear, Taisa,' were the only words he needed. Hideyoshi-san shriveled up like a flower beneath a dropship's drive vents. Under Theodore's acid reproof, the Otomo commander relented, suggesting only that Hansa Davian not be informed of the invasion of Luthien until the clans had been thrown back. Theodore shook his head with a smile. "Too late," he said. "A message informing Davian is already on its way." In the same breath, he vowed that no matter what the clans threw at Luthien, the capital of the Draconis Combine would never fall. Neither the Kanrei nor any of his military advisors could know the twist that fate held in store for them. The Jaguar prepares. As the Kirito military leaders debated how to defend Luthien, the leaders of clans Smoke Jaguar and Novacat also laid plans. Ilkhan Kerensky had appointed Khan Kincaid Fury, the Khan of the Smoke Jaguars, as the overall invasion commander. Fury, in turn, appointed Sarkhan Durian Worth of the Jaguars to bid against Khan Severin LaRue of the Novacats for the privilege of leading the assault on Luthien. In an unusual move, Khan Fury allowed each bidder access to forces drawn from both clans. Fury's rivals in both the Jaguars and Novacats have speculated that the Ilkhan had forced Fury's hand. His supporters insist that Fury allowed the bidders access to both clans because he knew that Luthien would provide the stiffest inner sphere resistance yet faced by either the Smoke Jaguars or the Novacats. Sarkhan Worth opened the bidding. "I will take Luthien with 4 combined arms galaxies," Worth said. Then he paused, as though waiting for Khan LaRue to counter the bid, but cut off his opponent's counteroffer with a quick amendment to his own, minus, that is, all naval support from our jump ships. Worth's bidding away his warships disrupted LaRue's initial plan. Hurriedly, LaRue countered by bidding away half his aerospace fighter support. Unknown to either clan officer, this move would give the Inner Sphere troops an invaluable tactical advantage. In the end, Worth won the right to lead the invasion of Luthien with 3 combat galaxies and 3 aerospace clusters. With the bidding completed, the commander settled in to plan strategy. Determined that the Kiritans wouldn't trick the Jaguars as they had on Walcott, Khan Fury announced the invasion force would issue no Bachal, no formal challenge to the enemy. After all, the Bachal was a ritual observed between honourable warriors. And at Walcott, the Combine troops approved they had no honour. Fury's announcement sparked dissent both within the Smoke Jaguars and across clan lines. Khan LaRue immediately asked Ilkhan Kerensky to convene a trial of refusal. LaRue claimed that skipping the Bachal and launching a surprise invasion would violate basic traditions of clan warfare and drag the clan down to the level of the Inner Sphere barbarians. the Ilkhan decided the matter by reminding Khan V'Larue that Fury had been appointed to oversee the invasion. "When it is your time to command an invasion force, you may order a Bachal, if that is your desire," the Ilkhan said. "But for now, your duty is to obey the commanders appointed to you." Hello, it's me again with the post-episode ramble. And with that last line there from Ulrich Kerensky, you can already see that he's already undermining the Smoke Jaguars as part of his long-term goal to basically make sure that the Crusader clans basically weaken themselves to the point where, when it does come down to some kind of major battle, say for Tukid in the future, that he may or may not have been planning alongside Anastasius Focht, that we end up in a situation where, I don't know, the Smoke Jaguars might be a little bit exhausted. Who knows? Well, he probably wasn't thinking that far ahead, but that's definitely what the writing is getting at, is that obviously with a wolf Ilkhan, it creates a lot of situations where his enemies are going to be purposely usurped and countered at every turn. He gives the Smoke Jaguar Khan the illusion that he has all the control, when in reality he's manipulated events. He knows that Khan Kincaid Fury is going to do something stupid, in this case allow him to basically drop clan tradition, which is obviously causing the Smoke Jaguars to lose a little bit of face there amongst the other clans that are invading, creating a little bit of dissension there between the two allied clans as well, with Nova Cats trying to obviously point out that there's a mistake and that they shouldn't do this, and obviously him saying that, oh well, when you're in charge you get to make those decisions, don't you? So yeah. And on the other side of the table, obviously you've got the whole honour issue reflected in the fact that you also have the Kiritan commanders a little bit at loggerheads as well. They also don't want to do things that they consider to be dishonourable, and in this case not doing things like pulling defensive forces away from the Federated Sun's border and potentially leaving themselves open to an invasion, though I never got the impression in the writing that that was ever going to be the case. Obviously, as far as the product is concerned, they need to push this idea of Innisphere versus clan, so suddenly writing a book where Hansa Davian goes, go, 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 and just invade a bunch of Kiritan worlds, yeah, it wouldn't really fit the whole unity theme that they were starting to go for, especially with plans for things like the Battle of Tukid, basically creating the groundwork for a second Star League, and then jumping off to things like Operation, like Task Force Serpent and all the rest. So yeah, and obviously the eventual destruction of Smoke Jaguar. So well, as it was then, obviously nowadays Smoke Jaguar have come back, but yeah, back then that was the idea. So an interesting setup on that one. I do like where they go with some of the planning here. We have the more forward-thinking, more modern Theodore Kurita, obviously realizing that there's a bit more to this whole, nation-leading and warfare stuff than just thinking about the honor and tradition, but looking more to actually successfully defeating their opponent in a timely manner without costing too many troops. Whereas his father would have been the type to have just driven God knows how many men to their deaths in a meat grinder to try and stop them. And also kind of turning this thing from, the old guard into the new guard of these defenders and leaders of the Innisphere. Obviously, Hansa Davian isn't too far off before he sort of drops off, and obviously his son takes up the position as leading the Federated Suns, and yeah, you get this kind of shift away. I think Luthien is kind of the setup for the end for a bunch of established characters that were in the 3020s era, up to obviously now, like 25 years on virtually, and you've got these much older characters now and their leaders sort of passing the torch, so to speak, and that's what the clan invasion is doing, is sort of setting up these new stories, these new histories and backgrounds. So yeah, it's a good start for writing Theodore Kurita as being a much more intelligent man compared to his father, and one that values the means of victory rather than just saving face. And on the other side of it, you also have this tradition clash with the fact that the clans have only ever worked in one particular way in terms of how they enact warfare, how they sort of perform on the battlefield, how they work back behind the scenes with their bidding and the such, and kind of highlighting that all of these old traditions that have worked for them for so long is actually more of a hindrance for them than anything else, and that slowly the more battles that they have with the Innisphere, the more of their sort of flaws, their inherent sort of military flaws, are being exposed and obviously used to the advantage of the Innisphere. And it basically points out the fact that in reality the clans were never really going to win, and that a lot of the early gains are literally that. It's you know, a rush. It's a blitzkrieg, essentially. A lot of early gains, but a lack of material and the capability of being able to properly hold on to all of these systems, because eventually it would have just turned into a case where they just wouldn't have had enough to be able to successfully defeat every single force that was arrayed against them. And that's kind of what this book is setting up. So yeah, that's me rambling again. I'll let you all go. Thanks again for listening, and that's part 2 of the Battle of Luthien. I hope you've enjoyed this first and second part so far. So we're not getting into the nitty gritty just yet, but we're not too far off for the actual battle itself. So yeah, have a good one all. We'll catch you next time. Goodbye.